Morning, guys. Welcome back to another episode of Mike's MMA Picks Fight Morning Quick Card Breakdown Show, brought to you by MMA Oddsbreaker as well as BetDSI. We have UFC Rio Rancho later this evening. Should be one hell of a card. Really looking forward to this one. We have 6 fights that are expected to end inside the distance, and a bunch of local fighters from the Albuquerque area will be participating in the event. We'll kick things off in the 125-pound division. We've got a bout between Mark De La Rosa and Raulian Paiva. Paiva, Brazilian fighter who has been flying under the radar for the most part. Came in and took a short notice fight against Kai Kara-France. Lost that fight, according to the judges, though, in my eyes, won that fight via split decision. Next up, he took on Weaver-Vargas, who will be also fighting on this card. In that fight, Bontorin sustained a significant wound to his eyebrow, and the fight was subsequently cut short. No pun intended. Let's get straight to it here, though. Paiva's going to come in with the much tighter striking. Straight punches. Length is going to be a major issue here for De La Rosa. De La Rosa, 7,400 in DraftKings, plus 210 underdog. Paiva at one point was down to minus 155, hung around there, minus 170 region, and has since gone through the roof, minus 245 right now for Paiva. Paiva, I like the way he flows. I like his pace. If he gets caught in a pad position, I like the way he's able to scramble out of it. De La Rosa, we've seen him fight at 135 pounds as well as 125 pounds. We've got mutual opponents here. Kai Kara-France beat De La Rosa pretty handily. De La Rosa had a better showing of himself in the latter rounds, though you could see, I don't rate Kai Kara-France very highly. De La Rosa also, dominant loss to Alex Perez. We've been on Alex Perez for quite some time here. Controversial win over Joby Sanchez. De La Rosa, we know about his wife fighting on this card as well, Montana. This spot, though, this fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 325. I think the length is going to be a major factor in this fight. De La Rosa does have a high-caliber jiu-jitsu game, though I like Paiva to get the job done here in, I'm not going to say in spectacular fashion, but I'm hoping and expecting a unanimous scorecard victory, 30-27 for Raulian Paiva in this spot. This kid came into the UFC with an 18-1 record, and he should have 20 wins to his name. That Bontorin cut was rather unfortunate event. Next up, we've got Macy Chiasson taking on Chiasson-Young. Chiasson-Young, Invicta fighter. We saw her lose on the Contender Series. Comes in at 6,800 plus 600 underdog, taking on Macy Chiasson, who is priced at 9,400 minus 900 favorite over at BetDSI. Chiasson came in and had a meteoric rise was chopped down, though, by Lena Landsberg. Chiasson coming in with the 4-inch reach advantage. This fight is expected to end inside the distance at minus 260. Fortis MMA fighter Chiasson, who we saw Fortis go 0 for 3 in that last 247 card. Here, though, I know Chiasson is built like a giraffe, but she has long arms and spectacular power. Nullified against Landsberg. I don't see Young being able to implement that sort of game plan in here. She also enjoys striking, and the picks can be Chiasson to win inside the distance in this spot. I think we'll see her ferociousness take over. And as far as the DraftKings play goes, I know people pay a lot of attention to recency bias, and they see Chiasson losing in her last time out. They also see that it's a women's fight, and typically women's fight do not end inside the distance. So this one should, and I think she's a good play on DraftKings. Next up, we've got Casey Kenney taking on Medeiros-Vannata. Dvalishvili coming in at 8,400 minus 175 favorite. Kenny 7,800 plus 150 underdog. You look at Kenny's record, the kid is a winner, 13-1-1 record. Really, I think could be fighting at 125 pounds. He's fought some opponents in the past who've come in overweight. He had that win over Manny Bermudez last time out. He has some tight striking, very versatile fighter. Comes from a wrestling background. He's going to need that here against Dvalishvili, who, man, it's been a while since we've heard Ray Longo, the corner of Ray Longo out there. Both of these guys have identical reaches. We know that Dvalishvili puts on a spectacular pace, and he's able to maintain that pace throughout the course of 15 minutes. I have concerns with Dvalishvili beyond that pace. He isn't the most competent striker, can potentially get himself reversed. The later this fight goes, I'm going to be interested to see. I'm going to be interested to see if Kenny starts to wear down. If he doesn't, then this is going to be his fight to win, because I think he's the much more technical striker in this spot. And I know the odds have been widening as far as Dvalishvili goes. I won't have a play on this fight, but I'm going to lean with the underdog Kenny to surprise some folks here at 28 years of age. Both of these guys are fairly close in age. Dvalishvili's 29. We've seen he has 4 losses on his record. That Ricky Simone fight, man, that was crazy. So give me Kenny to win a split decision. Next up, we have Ray Borg taking on Rogerio Bontorin. Bontorin, 7,900 in DraftKings, plus 121 underdog. Ray Borg, 8,300 in DraftKings, minus 141 favorite. And some books we've seen the line widen a bit. Ray Borg, 12-4 record. The big news was him missing weight yesterday. That was a horrific experience to watch, a disgusting display of, man, this guy just, it's really unfortunate what's happened to him and his career. I know he's coming off of a win, though. Ray Borg, we know he's a great scrambler. He misses weight most of the time that he competes. He lacks accountability. He's been gaining unfair advantages when it comes to the scale. He's paid a tremendous price for it in the pocketbook, but in my eyes, that is an advantage for him in this spot. Bontorin spent his whole week starving himself to get down 100 to 125 pounds, made made the weight, and now you wonder what would this have done to Ray Borg if he was forced to cut those extra 2 pounds. You talk about digging deep and pushing yourself to do that. Why can't Ray Borg do that? Why can't he do it at 135 pounds? Granted, great ground grappler. Bontorin, strong fighter. Although he's not the fleetest of foot, has a solid ground game himself. He's more of a controlling fighter rather than a submission fighter. I actually like to see that if folks are able to lock down position over submission. The thing, though, with Borg is you're dealing with someone, Ray Borg, who's a tremendous scrambler. He finds his way out of positions. Watch that Casey Kenney fight. He almost pulled that out. This fight, though, I think that Ray Borg, you have him coming in, hometown fighter, got the crowd behind him. This fight, though, Bontorin, I liked what I saw in his previous fights. He was able to beat a Bibilotov, who was very highly regarded, and was able to crack Paiva, although we didn't see that fight play out. I was, man, I wish we could have seen those 15 minutes play out, but give me Bontorin to pull out a victory here, and I think the power and the strength of Bontorin is going to be a difference maker in this spot. So the pick here is going to be Bontorin, though there will be no play on this fight. Jim Miller taking on Scott Holtzman. I feel like Jim Miller's had 3 separate UFC careers. We know about his battle with Lyme disease. He came out as a force early in his career, struggled towards the middle portion of his career, and now has made a resurgence of late. So he's lost 5 of his last 8, though he's won a couple of fights in a row, and he's been finishing guys. $8,000 in DraftKings, plus 126. Underdog for Jim Miller. On the other side of the fight, you've got both guys are 36 years of age. You've got Scott Holtzman, who we know had a professional hockey career, made the transition late in life, and recently was promoted to black belt. Last time out, Dong Hyung Ma was able to surrender himself basically in that spot to Holtzman. Holtzman just outworked him there. Nick Lentz, that was a man, there were a couple of sequences where Holtzman could have won that fight. He landed big time damage on Nick Lentz, and Nick Lentz just won the positioning and secured positions in critical moments of the fight. Jim Miller may be able to do that early on. I want to see what happens when this fight hits the 2nd or 3rd round. I think this might be a great live wagering opportunity here. Holtzman, if you go to Sherdog, Jason Burgos did a interview with Scott Holtzman where he talked about really buckling down on the positional aspect of his game and where his weaknesses have been in previous fights. I'm interested to see if that pays dividends. Jim Miller, I could see him getting the job done here early. If he isn't able to get it done in the 1st round, I suspect Scott Holtzman is going to grind out a hard-fought decision victory. Also, in the 2nd and 3rd round, I see that Scott Holtzman should have a striking edge. But is he going to get the space? That's the question for me. So give me Scott Holtzman to run away with this fight late. But if it's going to end early, Jim Miller should get the job done early. But give me Holtzman. Next up, we have Nathaniel Wood coming across the pond with a lot of confidence. 16-3 record, 8,600 in DraftKings. The line has closed a bit on this fight, minus 145. for Nathaniel Wood, 26 years old, taking on John Dodson, who, man, think about recency bias in this spot. He fought one of the greatest fighters at 135 pounds in Peter Yan. Dodson, 31 years of age, local fighter, loves to play that cat and mouse game. Dodson, 7,600 in DK, typically a low scorer in DraftKings. You look back at the Manny Gambierian fight, that was a fight that that's the last time we saw him nail a finish. Plus 125 underdog right now for Dodson. You watch his some of his training that surfaced on the internet. He was stalking and walking down a larger fighter while they're sparring, and that typically isn't his game. He loves to play that cat and mouse game. Nathaniel Wood is going to be looking to close distance here. He might have a very difficult time closing off angles, and Dodson's he'll wait for opponents to pass, and then he'll counter strike. He's coming in with a lot of confidence here. Seems like a new man, John Dodson. I'm leaning towards Nathaniel Wood in this spot. I think that Nathaniel Wood, with Brad Pickett in his corner and a full camp with the confidence, he may be able to run away with this fight on the scorecards. The judges, don't even get us started about the judging. Last card that was ridiculous with the Andrea Lee Murphy fight. But it is what it is. Nathaniel Wood in this spot, he is susceptible to being struck upon. His striking defense is an issue. You watch the Johnny Eduardo fight, completely lit up. But what I liked from him was there was no giving up. If he's conscious, I expect him to win this fight. Dangerous fight, though. I wonder. John Dodson is most frustrating fighter from a capper's perspective to watch, because I realize that he has the strength. I know he does have grappling ability, though he can't hold opponents down. He's so small that if opponent has any length on him, especially on the ground, they're able to get back up. But he is able to land takedowns. He doesn't typically do it, though. You watch the Jimmy Rivera fight. There are a bunch of other fights that he's tend to just gotten by, but the screw, his chinny chin chin. So give me Nathaniel Wood to win a closely fought decision in this spot. Next up, we've got Tim the Dirty Bird Means coming in and taking on Daniel Rodriguez. Daniel Rodriguez, a Dana White Contender Series fighter, but he also has fought in Combate and other organizations. 7,100 plus 270 underdog. Tim Means 9,100 minus 330 favorite. The line has widened significantly here. Daniel Rodriguez has gone to a decision a couple of times in his career. Both of these fighters are southpaws. Daniel Rodriguez does have an underrated ground game at 10th Planet. He is one of Joe Schilling's proteges, although the guy's 33 years old, so he's not a spring chicken. This is a somewhat dangerous fight for Tim Means, in that you think about the Chaos Williams fight a couple of cards ago. Rodriguez should come out here like a gangbuster, and that is where Tim Means is susceptible early. He talked about it in a recent interview, that he needs to get hit once or twice before the lights kind of turn on. That's a dangerous spot. We know that Rodriguez has a huge left hand, and when it comes to the technical aspect of the striking, though, Tim Means much more technical, fluid striker. He has beautiful boxing, crisp boxing, does have the ability to take fighters down. You look at the Rainey fight and a bunch of other fights. He has that ability in his back pocket. This fight's at home. Tim Means is fighting for the Sandoval brothers. One of my personal favorite fighters, though I don't let that seep into my ability to cap a fight. I do have Tim Means winning this fight My question is, how durable is Danny Rodriguez? Is he going to be able to take the punishment that Tim Means is going to be dishing out, especially the later rounds of the fight? I'm curious to see if he'll be able to weather that storm. Tim Means, 40 pro fights under his belt, learned his lessons from the Sergio Moraes fight, the Bilal Muhammad fight. This is a guy who he looks back at his career and he thinks UFC Pittsburgh, he was supposed to fight Donald Cerrone. Think about how that could have changed the trajectory of his career. Was in a very closely fought battle against Jorge Masvidal. These are opportunities that could have been his. So he's making up for short time here, making up for lost time. Tim Means should win this fight. There's always a chance that Danny Rodriguez comes out. He has a puncher's chance to end this, but I see Tim Means being a great counter striker in this spot and putting Rodriguez away. Give me Tim Means. Next up, we have Yancy Medeiros taking on Lando-Vannata. Lando-Vannata, 8,100, minus 115 favorite. Lando-Vannata, big risk taker, is willing to commit, really sit down on his strikes, put himself in situations that are potentially dangerous. You watch the Matt Favola fight, you watch the Drakkar Klose fight, you see him mentally just get completely run over by Mark Diakese. He's going to be fighting at home here against Yancy Medeiros, who trains with Max Holloway. Just because you train with a great fighter doesn't mean that you are a great fighter. We've seen that many times before. 8,100 for Medeiros. Both of these fighters are identically priced in DraftKings. Minus 105 for Medeiros. Medeiros got snuffed out by Gregor Gillespie in his last out. Medeiros can be a human punching bag at times, but so can Lando-Vannata. 32 years old for Medeiros. This kid, Medeiros, has been in some wars throughout the years, as has Vannata. If Vannata wins this fight, I expect it to happen early. If this is the later rounds, I'm going to be picking Medeiros to get the job done in that spot. Look at Vannata. He comes in. His face looks completely different from when he came into the UFC. He's taken mountains full of damage. I'm surprised his chin has held up. I'm surprised it held up in the Diakese matchup. You hear a lot about his wrestling. I'm interested to see if he brings that to the equation in this spot. See people, I'm surprised folks were on Vannata last time out against Diakese. This is a stay away fight as far as wagering goes, but I'm going to be picking Medeiros to win this fight. I think that he's going to have more in the tank the longer the fight goes. Vannata, I have a strong hunch that there will be blood in this fight. I'll say that. And depends on the commission, but I wouldn't be surprised if this fight ends via cut stoppage. Next up, we have Brock Weaver taking on Rodrigo Vargas. Rodrigo Vargas, 11-3 record, 34 years of age, Mexican fighter, 7,000 in DraftKings, plus 230 underdog. Taking on a Brock Weaver who the public loves. Brock Weaver. He's got a great story, rising like a phoenix from the ashes. 9,200. That's a huge price tag in this spot. Minus 270 favorite. 14-4 record for Brock Weaver. Brock Weaver been all over the place. Actually took a bare knuckle fight against Joe Riggs back in 2018 and lost that matchup. Brock Weaver, great talker. I suspect the crowd is going to be a huge fan of his here. These guys are going to come in and look to bang. Minus 175 that this fight does go to a decision. If this fight stays on the feet, I would be careful here because Vargas does have heavy hands. He has a number of knockout victories, and it's going to come down, in my eyes, to a fighter who's able to dig a little bit deeper, and I think that in this spot, Brock Weaver is going to be that fighter. I'm going to be staying away from this fight as well, though Weaver may be an interesting play in DraftKings due to his output. He was nullified in his last fight, or minimized in his last fight on the Contender Series, but if he has space, he'll go until he is out. He will empty his tank, is what I'm saying. So give me Brock Weaver, but I'm not touching minus 270 in that spot. Montana De La Rosa against Romero Borella. Miss Borella, last time out, we saw her like a deer caught in the headlights against Lauren Murphy. Borella, 12-6 record. This fight's at 125 pounds. We've got Montana De La Rosa coming in. Her husband is going to be fighting on this card. I have concerns about how she comes into this fight, depending upon the performance of her husband earlier in the card. De La Rosa, I like what I've seen from her. She dug deep against Andrea Lee. This is a De La Rosa who comes in at 8,700 in DraftKings, minus 170 favorite. She has... you look at who she's fought. She's fought some pretty stiff competition through the years. She's fought Andrea Lee. She's fought Nico Montano. She's fought Cynthia Calvillo. She's fought Mackenzie Dern. 10-5 record. Only 25 years of age. Borella can grapple when she's on the feet. Like I mentioned before, she does look like a deer in the headlights. Has 4 KO losses. Trains at a great camp in ATT. 33 years of age, though. And I'll be honest, I think this is the end of the road for Borella in this spot. I will be picking Montana De La Rosa to implement a grappling heavy game plan, be able to land the takedowns, not do much with them, but pull out a pretty clear 30-27 unanimous victory. Borella is going to be dangerous early, though in this spot I think that the home crowd is going to be behind De La Rosa in this spot. She is from Texas. That's a neighboring state, though. Give me De La Rosa to win this fight. Next up, we have men's 205-pound division. That's right, 205 pounds. We're seeing Clark-Towsend move up in weight class to 205, 6,900 for Townsend. Pretty heavy underdog, plus 310 underdog. 21-10 record for Clark-Towsend. Then we've got Devin Clark on the other side of the fight, 10-4 record, 9,300 in DraftKings. Very high price fighter. They're going to be expecting him to get takedowns in this spot. Minus 410 favorite. That is a wide line. That is a very wide line, folks. 29 years old for Devin Clark. We've seen Devin Clark stopped a few times in the past. That Rakic fight was an eye-opener, and so was the loss to Alex Nicholson. When you have a chance, pull that fight up. The chin on Devin Clark comes into question when I cap his fights. This fight is expected to go to a decision at minus 155. If Townsend is able to get loose, he is a dangerous fighter, though you're not dangerous when you're on your back and you don't have a ground game. And Townsend, I don't see him submitting Clark in this spot, and Clark's going to be probably trying to spam takedowns here and hold Townsend against the cage and implement Randy Couture-esque dirty boxing and initiate the clinch. I'll be picking Devin Clark here. This is another stay away fight in my eyes. I see this fight going the distance as well, but I wouldn't be surprised if Townsend's able to catch Devin Clark. Co-main event of the evening, we've got Diego Sanchez taking on Michel Pereira. Michel Pereira, 8,500 in DraftKings, minus 155 favorite, taking on a 38-year-old Diego Sanchez, oldest fighter on the card, 7,700 in DraftKings, plus 135 underdog. Diego Sanchez, we know he's got a high-level jiu-jitsu game. He has a very questionable chin. His gas tank is typically great, though I have concerns about the mileage really starting to add up on him at this point. He has left reputable gyms and has been doing his own thing for a couple of camps now. I don't like what I'm hearing from Diego Sanchez. I rarely do. Pereira says in his Instagram that he can go 3 rounds. How can you trust someone like Pereira in this spot, though? The guy has burned himself out during the walkout, and even prior to the walkout, you look at him warming up for the fights. It's ridiculous, the amount of energy that he expends. Seems like he's learned his lesson. Came in as the lighter fighter. He actually weighed in at 170 pounds. I believe he's trying to make a statement in this fight. 23-10 record for Pereira. 10 losses at only 26 years of age. That is an eye-opener. Go look at that. 10 losses at 26 years of age. Those are a lot of losses. This is a guy who takes huge risks. All he needs to do is hit Diego Sanchez once, in my eyes. He has tremendous power. He has a capoeira game, but I am worried if this fight does hit the second and third round, we may see Diego Sanchez run away with it. But I'm gonna go with the other side here. I'll be picking Pereira to win this fight inside the distance. We don't live in a world of ifs. And if Michel Pereira won that fight against Tristan Connolly, he would be a massive favorite in this spot. But there are no ifs here, and that's why this line may be justified. I believe you are getting a little bit of a discount, though, on Pereira because he is only 26 years of age. He has a little bit of a reach advantage. He can pack power. And Diego, he has a movement coach. He has all these different things. But he's got the home crowd. He'll have the home crowd. This is going to be the biggest pop on the card is going to come out for Diego Sanchez. But give me Michel Pereira to win this fight inside the distance. I'm going to be picking him to win by knee, stoppage. And I'll be worried about Diego's health if he does get knocked out in this spot. Give me Pereira to win. Next up, we've got Corey Anderson taking on Jan-Blachowicz. Jan-Blachowicz comes in 7,300 plus 185 underdog. 36 years of age. He's getting up there. Taking on a Corey Anderson at 8,900 in DraftKings, minus 220 favorite. Super motivated Corey Anderson. We saw what he did against Johnny Walker last time out, who expected a standing TKO stoppage for Corey Anderson. I did like Corey Anderson in that spot. Corey Anderson coming in with a 1-inch reach advantage, but this fight should end up on the ground. This fight is not expected to go to a decision at minus 130. Corey Anderson, 25-8. He is known as overtime, though he has some significant chin issues, and he's got to watch that chin in this spot. John, he has some great kickboxing, not very impressive against an aging Jacare Souza, who looked very stiff in his last fight. Blachowicz looked very stiff also in his last outing. Had a loss against Thiago Santos, and that was on home turf for him. I liked what I saw against Krylov. For me, the pace of Corey Anderson, the takedowns, this is a rematch of a fight that took place a few years ago. There have been some improvements by Jen, but Corey Anderson's game is very strong right now. He wants that fight against John Jones. I think Reyes is going to get it first, but he's looking to make a statement here, and I believe he is going to make a statement. So I think it was Lara on Twitter who referred to Corey Anderson as a DraftKings wet dream, and I believe that is the case, and that will be the case in this fight. Give me Corey Anderson to win this, and win this late inside the distance. Looking to make another statement. That's it, folks. Want to thank everybody for tuning in today. We've got a tremendous card for you. UFC Rio Rancho. Been looking forward to this one for a very long time. You can follow me at MikesMMAPicks on Twitter. You can also follow me at CapperTech as well as BetMMA.tips. I want to thank BetDSI as well as MMA Oddsbreaker for hosting the show. In the future, you'll be able to find some of my select plays at MMA Oddsbreaker Premium. Not yet, though. Got my eyes on a few things out there. But I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. I want to wish you the best of luck with your plays. Showcase your skills today. Go out there and get what's yours, my friends. This is your time.